Mother relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Natasha Jonas is aiming to entice Katie Taylor for one last dance, but won't be overlooking Lauren Price. You guys know what I think. I don't think she makes it to a Katie Taylor fight. Natasha Jonas believes that Lauren Price will bring out the very best in her when the British rivals meet in a welterweight title unification at London's historic Royal Albert Hall on March 7th. The fight will be screened by Sky Sports. Last December, the two world champions shared a bill entitled Collision Course in Jonas's hometown of Liverpool. Jonas, 16-2 with one draw, 9 knockouts, was just too good for Ivana Habazin and comfortably outpointed the Croatian, adding her WBC bauble to her own IBF title to become a unified champion at another weight. In 2022, Jonas, 40, tore through the super welterweight division, collecting the Ring Magazine, WBC, WBO, and IBF titles, just one belt short of becoming an undisputed champion. She would have had to go through Terry Harper for the last one, and she didn't want to do that. So she's at welterweight now. The path is now clear for the biggest and most significant fight ever to take place between two British women, but the clash also looks like being a fascinating tactical battle between two clever, accomplished fighters who have shown the ability to take the initiative and dominate opponents who aren't in their league, but are also happy to let a fight come to them and then make their opponents pay for their mistakes. I think that's a southpaw thing, so it's going to be interesting when we're both southpaws in there, because we kind of box the same, Jonas told The Ring. I think she thinks that the age and the speed is going to be a factor. Why wouldn't it be? She's got a good jab, good feet. It's kind of amateur stylish still, but I think my two biggest things, and they always have been, are my timing and my accuracy. So I think I combat that anyway. We'll see. Without sounding disrespectful, I can switch off against Habazin. I can switch off against Candy Wyatt. Can I switch off against Katie Taylor? No. Can I switch off against Michaela Mayer? No. I like them camps because I know it's focused, it's motivated, I'm on it. There's a different Tasha that comes out, a different Miss Great Britain. Jonas accepts that her time in the sport is drawing to a close, but she isn't making the mistake of preparing for the formidable Price as if it's her final fight. Beating the Welsh woman would be the biggest win of her career, but adding Price's WBA and the Ring welterweight titles to her own trophy collection would also provide extra bait for a trap she's setting. Jonas wants to round out her career with a rematch against either current WBO welterweight champion and Ring Magazine's number 2 ranked contender, Michaela Mayer, or Ireland's 2-weight champion and current undisputed in Ring Magazine super lightweight champion, Katie Taylor. I don't see a need for a Taylor rematch, and I never saw the point in Natasha continually calling her out after she left Matchroom for Boxer. All that did was put distance between her and Katie. Mayer rematch makes more sense. Natasha Jonas quote-unquote beat Mayer in a thrilling IBF welterweight title fight in Liverpool last January, and a return has been mooted ever since. Jonas and Taylor have a much longer history. They met at the London Olympics in 2012, and their quarterfinal clash evoked the loudest crowd noise recorded at any event at the entire Games. Taylor won the fight and went on to win the gold medal. So Katie beat her twice. She beat her once in the amateurs, then again in the pros. Although both fighters have taken their illustrious careers to even greater heights since, they have always remained within each other's orbits. Taylor retained her 140-pound titles by outpointing her old victim, Amandia Serrano, in an outstanding rematch last November, and is beginning to plot her exit from the sport as she has dominated for so long. A third fight with Serrano would be lucrative and high profile, but the thought of completing the circle and beating her old amateur rival to become a unified champion at a third weight division would be a tantalizing prospect worthy of consideration. Talking about Natasha, that if Natasha beats Lauren, collects a third alphabet title, that might entice Katie to fight her. Problem is, I don't think Natasha's gonna beat Lauren. Jonas has spent enough time around Taylor to know exactly how she thinks, and also believes that Mayer would jump at the chance to meet her for the undisputed welterweight title. Neither of the things will happen if she doesn't get past Price. And I don't think she's going to. I definitely think a 3-weight champion is something that would entice her, Katie Taylor, and that's the whole point about keeping the belts. That's why keeping the belts is so important, Jonas said. If you haven't got a belt, you're just a lot of risk with no reward. The same with Michaela Mayer. When she lost against Alicia Baumgartner, and then she lost against me, that was a big fight for Cindy Ryan to take, because she's a lot of risk, and she didn't have a reward except the American audience. Ryan ended up losing her WBO title to Mayer last September. I think you've got to have something tangible for them to entice them to want to fight you, and whether that's a Katie Taylor fight or whether that's a Michaela Mayer rematch, whichever comes after the Lauren Price fight, it's still an undisputed fight.
I mean, yeah, those are possibilities. A Mayer rematch, that one definitely is.
Perhaps a Katie Taylor fight, though Katie is otherwise preoccupied with a potential Amanda Serrano trilogy. The bottom line is none of this comes into fruition if Natasha doesn't make it past Lauren, and unfortunately for Natasha, I don't think she's going to. Lauren is a natural welterweight, naturally bigger, younger, faster, I think stronger. Her power's coming along.
See what she did to Bexy Matias.
It is true that Lauren's style is still somewhat amateurish, that points-based style, points fighting, but she's making that transition from an amateur style to a pro style. That's how she knocked out Bexy Matias.
Amateur or otherwise, you can either contend with her speed, power, and agility or not. And at this age, I'm sorry to say, I think Natasha can't.
It's gonna all be too much brought to the table from one fighter. I anticipate that Lauren may knock out Natasha Jonas, and that's gonna be hard to watch, because I'm a big fan of Natasha. I love Natasha.
And I love her still.
But Lauren Price really is coming into her own, with the same as, if not a better amateur pedigree than Natasha. Lauren won the gold in her games.
She was all I could hear about during those Olympics.
And this will be a signature win for her. The biggest win of her career so far on this upward trajectory. Lauren Price looks like the heir apparent to today's welterweight division, and I'm sorry to say, for a lot of girls, I don't see them beating her. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, it's all doom and gloom, according to boxing insider Rick Glacier, who said being told by a rock-solid source that Amazon Prime may be dropping PBC Boxing in May, as PBC has failed to hit minimum pay-per-view numbers. This will be the 12th platform that has permanently disassociated themselves from PBC since the inception of PBC in March of 2015. Another Al Heyman fumble. And this bleak forecast from Rick comes to us at a time when the PBC has a hold on 2 dates in the coming months. One for March 22nd at the Michelob Ultra Arena at the Mandalay Bay in Vegas, and another for early May at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, though nothing beyond that. And who's to say that these dates, these holds, don't fall through the same way that the Fundora versus Spence fight just fell through.
It doesn't disprove what Rick Glacier said, because Rick is saying that beyond May, the deal is done and Amazon will be moving forward without the PBC.
Rick has been spot on about a lot of his inside intel. He was the one who said that Spence versus Fundora fight likely wasn't going to happen. I shared in that opinion.
Turned out to be true, so maybe this will too.
And if it does, how can the PBC hope to survive without a broadcast partner or a distributor of some kind? They've had over a year now
since the Amazon deal started
to find some semblance of a second broadcast partner, and not just a distributor like Amazon has been. Stefan Espinoza talked about that last year, that they were talking to people and they were in the market for a new broadcast partner. But last year came and went, and they didn't sign a deal with anybody else because, being honest, what do they really have?
Not Canelo.
Canelo Alvarez was among 16 fighters mentioned to be making ring appearances on Ring Magazine's upcoming cards. Ring Magazine that is now owned by Turkey LL Sheikh.
Rumor has it he's inked a 3-fight deal with them.
So if his next ring appearance is going to be on one of Turkey's shows, there's no reason for him to have any further association with the PBC. In his last 2 fights, they didn't even provide him the opponents. They didn't provide him the bodies. Those fighters, Jaime Munguia and Edgar Berlanga, were with other outfits. Thus, if the PBC doesn't have Canelo fights to sell this year,
they're screwed.
They only did 5 shows last year, and 2 of them were Canelo Alvarez fights. If Canelo has jumped ship and gone somewhere else now, well, they don't have that to sell. They don't have Spence versus Fundora.
That's dead.
So you ask yourself, if they're in the market for a new broadcast partner, what are they bringing to the table?
Not a lot.
A year out from the Amazon deal's inception, and it's potential termination, they haven't secured a new broadcast partner, so how does the PBC survive without one? In that situation, they would be little more than booking agents, just a middleman between what fighters stay over there, though I don't see why any would, and what other promotional outfits might find use for them. In a situation like that, without a broadcaster, and so much as a distributor,
The best you can do is outsource your fighters and make money off of the percentage that you collect from them, from their purses.
in that situation, though that would make the PBC less a promotional outfit and more of a pointless middleman, because many of these fighters already have managers.
To get a percentage of their purse?
Situation like that, that's what the PBC would become. That's what they would be. Though you can see how that's redundant because that's two hands in the cookie jar where one of them really isn't even doing anything, doing any work.
What the hell's the point in being stuck in a promotional outfit that doesn't promote their own shows, that doesn't have a budget, that doesn't have any money?
They're living off of yours. And what some other promotional outfit might be offering you to have a fight on their side, well then what's the point? Now, so many of the Haymanites are against Turkey and what he's doing, what he's trying to do for the sport of boxing, but Turkey might be the PBC's only salvation. He's the only one with the means and the money to perhaps pull them out of this.
To salvage what remains of the PBC, but what is there left to salvage?
Not much. All the other promoters he's working with host much stronger and much deeper stables than what the PBC has. If you go over to Ring Magazine's website, it lists all the promoters that they're working with.
All the real movers and shakers and men of substance.
Partnered up with all four major sanctioning bodies. Do they actually need the PBC?
No.
So while the Haymanites might be against Turkey and what he's doing in the sport of boxing, Turkey might be the PBC's last hope.
To pull them out of this rut?
Because Al Heyman can't. In a situation where Turkey ends up absorbing them,
They're defeated.
even in the best interests of the PBC's survival, in that situation, that is an acquiescence to defeat.
You lost.
Because don't forget what the PBC was supposed to be upon its inception. It was intended to be an affront to the more established game in town. Golden Boy, Top Rank.
PBC was intended to be an affront to the bigger game in town. Al Heyman's vision was to monopolize the sport of boxing, to have his own monopoly, but in a situation like this one, they'd be the ones getting monopolized.
A subsidiary of someone else's monopoly, Turkey's monopoly. And that's if you're lucky.
That's if he even wants what you have, which really isn't much.
And I might be more sympathetic towards their plight if not for the division they created in the sport and their toxic boxing culture.
Obnoxious fans.
Heyman's experiment that turned out to be an abject failure that did little more than drive the price of everything up while simultaneously driving 3 major networks away.
3 of them.
I have little sympathy for their situation. I don't pity them. I feel that boxing would be better off without them, and very soon it might be.
If Rick Glacier is right and his inside intel checks out, they might have to do without Amazon this year.
Failing to meet the threshold of pay-per-views that Amazon was expecting them to sell.
That's the story.
And finally, as it pertains to Ring Magazine's upcoming card, according to Salvador Rodriguez, otherwise known as Chava, ESPN, sources have revealed plans for a May function on Times Square outdoors, including Ryan Garcia versus Pitbull Cruz and Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez, as part of the launch of Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves from SNK, and Ring Magazine.
So it's not going to be Teofimo.
Well, a lot of people figured that Ryan Garcia's next fight might be against Teofimo Lopez, as he is one of the 16 fighters Ring Magazine said would be making an appearance on their cards moving forward. This seems to indicate that it won't be Teofimo, it will be Isaac. But that's still a good fight.
And it's still risky, especially for Ryan, who the night of will have considerable ring rust to have to shake off, having not fought in over a year's time, whereas Isaac will have already seen action this year, next month.
It's got that Angel Fierro fight on the undercard of Benavidez versus Morel, meaning that he won't have any ring rust to shake off, but Ryan will. And Isaac is a physical fighter, a pressure fighter, less than ideal guy for you to face when you ain't fought in a while. He's gonna try to push you, bully you, crowd you. Now how you can hope to combat that as the taller, longer fighter is to time his entry, time him on the way in and catch him with one of those left hooks. So, having not fought in a little over a year's time the night of, that might be hard for Ryan to do. He has to try to move around, create distance between himself and Isaac, who's going to be barreling forward, and time his entry. But can he do that? We've seen him do it before with Oscar Duarte. He's a pressure guy like Isaac is a pressure guy. So he's not in unfamiliar territory, though as stated, it is risky and somewhat less than ideal. A Mexican national versus a Mexican American is sure to drum up some business. Yeah, you can definitely sell that, but I don't think they should do it in Times Square. I don't think they should do that fight on the East Coast. Ryan is from the West Coast, and Isaac is from south of the border. The largest Mexican contingent would have to be on the West Coast or the Southwest. They would be the ones most motivated to be there, to show up for this fight. So the ideal location, I would say, is Vegas.
I would say California, but they're going through that whole wildfire situation and Gavin Newsom screwing a pooch.
Bungling Becky Bass and just that entire kerfuddle. I don't know that LA would be a good site for the fight, but Vegas seems ideal. The optimal spot to get those Mexican fans and those Mexican American fans going for a fight like this. That this fight by itself.
This is a main event. You could build this as a pay-per-view all by itself, and it could do good business.
Remember that Devin, who's also set to be boxing on this same show, he's from the West Coast too. So in Devin and Ryan, what you have are two West Coast fighters.
3 if you count Jose Ramirez. He's from the West Coast too.
This fight should be over there, just somewhere over there or close to over there, not on the East. I do like the idea of an outdoor spectacle in Times Square, but not with these particular fighters, not these guys.
What services as the appetizer, the prelude to Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia's rematch, what could be their trilogy.
Solid matchups, and you have to wonder what the rest of the card is going to look like, because this is only 2 fights we're talking about. Haney versus Ramirez, Garcia versus Cruz. Who else is going to be on this show?
I like what I'm hearing.
Garcia versus Cruz is a fight that was explored something like 2 or 3 years ago. Isaac walked away from the fight before.
Now Turkey's likely offering him a lot more money to do it now than then.
Well played, Isaac. Well played.